I have something deeply personal to share with you today. It's not easy, but I have to talk about what's been weighing on my heart. Can you imagine the pain of watching someone you love slowly fade away? Today, I'm opening up about my mother's struggles, and I need you to hear this. What if the person who's always been your rock starts to crumble? Let me tell you how it feels to see my mother go through this battle. Have you ever felt helpless when someone you love is in pain? I want to share the raw truth about what's happening to my mother right now. There's a side to my mother you haven't seen. And it's time I share the struggles she's facing with you, because they might just hit closer to home than you think. This might be the hardest video I've ever shared, but you deserve to hear the reality of what my mother is going through right now. I'm about to open up in a way I've never done before. This is the truth about my mother's battle, and I'm asking for your understanding. What if the person you looked up to, the one who always had it together, suddenly lost their strength? This is what I'm facing with my mother, and it's time to share it with you. You might want to stop reading this, but I beg you not to. The story I'm about to tell about my mother is something you'll remember forever. I've been holding this in for far too long, but today I'm going to share what's really happening with my mother. I can't keep this bottled up anymore. Every family has its secrets, but what happens when the secret is something as heart-wrenching as my mother's struggle? I need you to hear this. When your world starts to crumble, everything changes. Today, I'm telling you about the painful reality my mother is facing, and it's not easy to watch. You might not expect this from me, but I need to be vulnerable right now. I'm about to talk about my mother's battle, and it's something I never thought I'd share. I know you're going to feel every word of this because it comes from the deepest place of my heart. My mother's fight is my fight too, and I want to share it with you. This is one of those moments when words can't describe the pain, but I'm going to try. Let me tell you what's going on with my mother. There's something so painful that's been happening behind closed doors, and it's time for me to share the truth with you. This isn't easy. What do you do when someone you love begins to lose themselves? I'm about to share the heart-wrenching details of what my mother is going through. This is going to be tough to hear, but my mother's situation has taken a turn, and I'm finally ready to talk about it. It's not easy to share this with you, but I need you to know what my mother is facing. This is real, raw, and it's a struggle we're going through together. I've been living with this pain every day, but today I'm opening up. I need you to understand the depths of what's happening with my mother. When everything you thought you knew about someone starts to change, it's terrifying. Let me share what my mother is going through right now. There's a story of love, loss, and hardship I've kept hidden for too long, and today I'm finally ready to share it. My mother's struggle is something you need to hear. Sometimes the hardest stories to tell are the ones closest to our hearts. But today, I'm sharing everything about my mother's battle. My mother's world is falling apart, and I can't stand by and pretend it's okay anymore. I need you to listen to her story. Have you ever wished you could take away someone else's pain? I feel that every day watching my mother go through what she's facing now. There's a side of my mother I've never shown you, but today I'm opening the door to share the deep and painful truth. I've tried to protect her for so long, but now it's time for you to understand what's happening in our lives. This is my mother's reality. The hardest part of love is knowing when to let go and watching someone you love struggle. Today, I'm talking about my mother's journey. I'm going to be completely open with you about what my mother is going through and why it's so hard for me to watch. It's so easy to look at someone's life and think everything's perfect, but the truth is much darker for my mother. Let me tell you why. I've never been so scared in my life, watching my mother face something no one should ever have to. But I need you to hear this. Every day, I watch my mother battle her demons, and it's breaking my heart. I need you to know what's really going on. This isn't the easy thing to say, but it's the real thing. I need you to understand what my mother's going through right now. Imagine the fear of losing a part of yourself, the part that's always been strong. That's where my mother is, and I need you to know about it. I've seen my mother go from strong to fragile, and it's devastating. Let me tell you what that's been like for me. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to talk about, but my mother's fight is one that deserves to be heard. It's a struggle I never thought I'd face, but here I am, standing beside my mother as she goes through something unimaginable. I need to share this. When everything seems lost, you find strength in unexpected places. But I'm still searching for the strength to deal with what's happening with my mother. My mother's health is fading, and the weight of watching this unfold is crushing me. I can't stay silent anymore. This battle she's facing is one I wish I could fight for her, but all I can do is stand beside her, and I want to take you along on this journey. I need you to understand that what my mother is dealing with is more than just physical pain. It's a battle of the spirit, and it's taking everything from us. There's a truth I've kept hidden for so long, but today I'm finally ready to share it. My mother's fight is something that's changing everything for us. The hardest thing to accept is when the person who has always been there for you is no longer the same. Let me tell you about my mother's journey. You think you know someone, but what happens when their world crumbles in front of you? I'm about to tell you what my mother is going through. The pain of seeing my mother suffer is something I wouldn't wish on anyone, but I need you to understand the depth of what's happening. It's hard to put into words the pain of watching a loved one fade away, but I'm going to try. This is my mother's story. You'll never understand the feeling of watching someone you love go through something so difficult. But today, I'm going to share the story of my mother's struggle. I've never felt so lost in my life, but my mother's journey is something I need to talk about. It's not easy, but it's real. This is a story of hope and heartbreak. My mother's health is failing, and we're struggling to keep it together. Let me share this with you. Watching my mother change before my eyes is one of the hardest things I've ever had to face. But I need you to hear what's happening. The reality of what's happening to my mother is something I never thought I'd have to face. But here we are, and I'm going to share it with you. This is a moment of pure vulnerability. I'm about to share what my mother's going through, and I need you to be there with me. Every day, I feel the weight of what my mother is enduring, and it's something I can't ignore anymore. I have to tell you about it. You might think you know what it's like to care for someone who's in pain, but what happens when it's your mother? Let me tell you. I never imagined I'd be in this position, but now I'm sharing my mother's story with you. It's not easy, but it's necessary. There's a sadness in my heart that I can't escape, but maybe sharing my mother's struggle will help others who are going through the same. What do you do when the person who gave you everything starts to need you in ways you can't give back? Let me tell you about my mother's battle. This isn't the easiest thing to hear, but I'm going to share the reality of my mother's fight, and it's something I wish I didn't have to tell you. I've been keeping this hidden for too long, but now it's time for you to know the truth about my mother's health and how it's affecting our family. This is one of the hardest things I've ever had to talk about, but I know I need to share what my mother is going through. It's time to open up. I've never felt this vulnerable, but it's time to speak out about my mother's fight. What's happening to her is something I can't keep silent about. It's almost unbearable to watch, but I can't look away. My mother's journey is taking a turn I never saw coming, and I need you to understand. Every moment feels heavier than the last, and I can't carry this alone anymore. Let me share what's happening with my mother so you can feel it with me. The pain is more than just physical, it's a deep, emotional struggle that my mother can't fight alone. I need to share this with you today. This is more than just a story, it's my life. My mother's health is deteriorating, and every day feels like a test of our strength. I can barely find the words to explain how difficult this is, but I have to try. My mother's condition is taking a toll on all of us. There's a kind of silence that speaks louder than words, and that's all I hear these days. Let me tell you about my mother's battle.